Tonight on the All-Night Drive-In Picture Show.
It's a cinch. The more I look around and see these turkeys, I have... While you're drinking, that chalk to the left, isn't that J.J. McClure?
He's nothing. Don't worry about him. It's the blimp next to him. The blimp. When he puts on that mask, he'll blow your goddamn doors off.
And now, here are your projectionists, the extra butter brothers themselves, Ryan Mason and Charles Wood.
Welcome to the All-Night Drive-In Picture Show. I'm Ryan. That's Charles.
Hi, guys.
Will you start the damn show?
Yeah, buddy! Attention patrons. The movies discussed on this podcast will be spoiled from start to finish. If you wish to experience these cinematic gems visually, please do so before continuing with this episode. We will be right here when you return. Thank you, and have a pleasant evening.
And now, please enjoy our featured presentation.
Stop me if you've heard this one. A phony paramedic with multiple personalities, two drunken priests in a Ferrari, a stuttering country singer, Bert Convy, and a shut-eyed veterinarian all walk into a bar, and then compete in a cross-country race with no rules. Move 'em out!
Move 'em out.
Let it roll!
Let it roll.
From sea to shining sea. This is Cannonball Run. A black Lamborghini tears ass down a desert highway. The exotic muscle car pulls over and a beautiful blonde passenger named Jill, played by Tara Beckman, exits the car and spray paints an X on the speed limit 55 sign. A police car is right behind them. The cop pulls up next to the Lambo, but the driver floors it and blows past the cop car as if it were standing still. The Lambo pulls so far ahead that the driver parks it in the weeds, lets the cops pass, and then pulls in behind him just to make him look a fool. On the police radio, the officer tells dispatch that they are still in pursuit of the black Lamborghini. The dispatch officer says it didn't take this long to catch Dillinger. The driver stomps it, laps the cop once again, playing it for a chump. Cannonball.
Cannonball. Cannonball. Cannonball. Cannonball. It's not what you do, it's how you do. Be anything you want to be. It's not what you got, it's how you use it. You be you and I'll be me, it's just a matter of style. You can't fake it, mile after mile, feeling free. If you got the soul, you can make it. Move 'em out, let 'em roll, from sea to shining sea.
So before we get started, just a note about how we will refer to the characters in this movie. There are some characters that play themselves, and there are others that have character names. The majority of the players are very well known, so just to make it easier on all of us, I'm going to refer to all of them by their real names. So for instance, instead of calling Burt Reynolds J.J. McClure, I'm going to introduce his character and then just call him Burt throughout the remainder. Gabish?
Gabagoo! I have no idea what that means. Did you tell me it was some type of cheese?
I think it's a cheese, yeah, I don't know.
Oh, God. The opening of this is really cool. I thought this was like a really solid opening for it. I guess that the 20th Century Fox execs weren't crazy about the logo change that they made.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, but I guess once they heard the audiences really react to it, they were like, oh, okay, well, don't worry about this. just leave it in there.
Yeah.
And I won't probably do this for all the teams, but I will say that the Adrian Barbeau, Tara Buckman team that's showed here in the beginning, they were very loosely based on the Wright Bra racing team from the 1972 Cannonball. So,
The Wright Bra? Is that who?
Wright Bra racing team, yeah. Those ladies didn't use a Lamborghini. They were in, if I remember correctly, they were in a limousine. And they ended up being, I think, the only wreck in Cannonball history in those first Cannonballs.
Really?
They rolled that limousine. Luckily, none of them died, but I think there were a couple of broken bones. I think maybe a broken arm and dislocated shoulders, stuff like that. But
seems like a limousine would be a bad choice for a race car.
in reading Brock Yates' book, some of the choices they made on cars were really bizarre at times. It's just like, okay, a two-seater where you don't have any room for supplies? Okay, An ambulance? Yeah, okay.
At least the concept behind the ambulance makes sense, though, which we'll get to here in the coverage.
Absolutely. But, some guys doing it in a pickup truck. It's like,
right.
Well, okay. I mean, I guess they're fast, I don't know that much about cars.
Larger car, larger engine, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
Victor Prinzing, played by Dom DeLuise, arrives at J.J. McClure's land, sea, and air delivery business. J.J., played by Burt Reynolds, is working on a Porsche and isn't too happy about Dom being 2 hours late to work. Seems Dom's hamster had an anxiety attack and ate part of another hamster's tail and its treadmill. Burt says they have vets for that, but they have bigger issues. They have to gear up for the Cannonball Run.
Let me paint you a mental picture, all right, Victor? I want you to think of your hamsters as a little army, marching along on a treadmill, running their little legs off, just running just as fast as they can, making that engine just purr right along the road.
Oh, JJ, what a wonderful way to put it.
Burt walks back to the car and sticks his head under the hood.
Wouldn't it be great if we could share the glory of winning the Cannonball with them? That would be a real team effort, wouldn't it? I mean, you, me, the hamsters, and him.
Burt hits his head on the hood and angrily walks toward Dom.
Don't start with him. I don't want to talk about him.
If you need any help...
Damn it, I don't want to talk about him.
At the local sportsbook, Venterbaum, played by Sammy Davis Jr., arrives to place a bet on the Cannonball. The bookie, Jimmy the Greek Snyder as himself, isn't happy to see the little nuisance. Sammy wants to know how the Greek comes up with the betting odds on the Cannonball. He says it's science! 3,000 miles at an average of 85 miles an hour and shit. Sammy wants to place a bet and put down a $20,000 bet on 50-1 odds that he and his partner Jamie Blake, played by the perpetually drunk Dean Martin, will win the Cannonball. For those playing at home, that's a $1 million prize. Dean was once a Formula One racer. Sammy tells the Greek that God is their co-pilot and holds up his necklace that has a diamond-encrusted Star of David hanging from it. Greek says they'll need it. Dean wants to know where God is going to sit in their two-seater Ferrari. Where's he going to sit?
They slap each other.
I know.
Where's he going to sit? And in a movie that has kind of strained racial relations, hey, one of the first guys on screen, Jimmy the Greek, Jimmy
right.
the racist,
Man, I got fired from his CBS job for racial slurs on the air. Great job, buddy.
Yeah.
And while we're at it, I've got my favorite team on this movie, but Sammy Davis Jr. is the MVP of this movie. He is hysterical.
Lila and I were watching this the other night, and I told her, I said, I would watch a whole movie just with Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. as the main characters.
Oh, absolutely.
After a while, I'm just, especially this last time watching it, because I've seen this movie, 30 times or something insane. But this time, I was just sitting there waiting for them to come back on screen. I'm like, even with him, even with everything else, they were the ones who made me laugh this time more than any other time.
God, just Sammy's facial expressions alone. Oh, my God.
Yeah, and you can tell that they're real friends. And, you can just...
Great chemistry.
Yeah.
God, I've been so excited to cover this movie. Burt and Dom are testing out the Porsche on a country road, and they are moving fast. Dom is strangely talking like a superhero in voiceover. They come up over a hill and see a police roadblock. Burt swerves to avoid them and hits some fencing, blowing the front fenders off the Porsche. He swerves again and ends up on the opposite side of the road in a ditch. An officer approaches the car.
What are you, some kind of nut? Who do you think you are?
Dun, dun, dun! I am Captain Chaos. And this is my faithful companion, Cato. Say hello, Cato. Been a cop long?
What are you, some kind of nut?
Been a cop long? that Porsche is like shit brown.
I know.
So ugly.
Captain Chaos is another personality of Dom, or as Bert refers to it, him. He wears a red cape and a mask with yellow coveralls. While he looks and acts like an idiot, when he's in character, he's actually somewhat fearless. Bert and Dom have taken to the air in their prop plane. They are debating on what kind of vehicle they should race that would be unsuspecting to the police. A limousine with diplomatic plates, a bloodmobile, an ice cream truck, an armored bank vehicle, etc. Bert discovers that they are out of beer, so they land the plane on a city street so Dom can run into a liquor store and get some beer. Drinking and flying, what a magic combination.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that you can see the barriers blocking off the street in the background so the plane can land and a mass of people watching from behind the barriers. Kind of kills the magic movie vibe there, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it does, but then at the same time, it's kind of like, well, if a plane did land in the middle of town, you're going to have a crowd.
Of course,
You're going to hear that happening.
Yeah.
I also like how Bert mentions the black Trans Am.
Yeah.
When Dom's trying to get back in the plane, he's like, what about Black Trans Am? Nah, it's been done.
Yeah.
And one thing about this movie in general is that the editing in this movie makes zero sense, right?
You're right.
Because the way you've covered it here is differently than what it really plays out in the movie. Because if we tried to cover it the way it plays out in the movie, it'd be profoundly confusing to people just listening who haven't seen it. The scenes of Dom and Bert testing out different methods and flying a plane and all that stuff is intercut with the one scene between Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and Jimmy the Greek.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's like the time is all messed up. It's like Bert and Dom transcended time, so in 5 minutes they've done like 5 days worth of testing.
Yeah, the scene I just covered with Dean and Sammy was actually 2 scenes that I just merged together to make one paragraph.
Exactly, because it was like, it was one big scene that they cut up. Why they decided to cut it that way, I have no idea. Maybe just to get people on screen. I don't know, but...
Right. This is going to be the best way to cover this movie because putting these scenes together, it doesn't distract from the way the way the story is told. It actually helps it, I think.
Yeah, especially for somebody who hasn't seen it.
Right.
If you haven't seen this movie, you might want to take off your woke goggles, watch it first, and then put it back on and come back.
Right. This is 1981, folks. 1981.
It was a different time.
A different time.
Oh, God. And it was still wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the original casting for Fender Bomb, Sammy Davis's part, was Don Rickles.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Although I can't imagine this movie without Sammy Davis Jr.
No.
That's alternate history casting that I'm really interested in.
Next, we meet Seymour Goldfarb Jr., played by Roger Moore, who is visiting his mother, played by Marley Pacone, poolside at her country home. Roger is the heir to the Goldfarb Girdles empire, but he spends his time acting as if he's Roger Moore in his James Bond character. Meta, son! She spent a fortune on orthodonture and other doctors, as well as sending him to the best schools, and for what? Then she pulls a napkin back to reveal a gun that the maid found under his pillow. Cue the classic Bond music. He points the gun at his mother and says he has warned her to stay out of his personal affairs. She gets scared for a moment till he pulls the trigger and the flag that says bang unfurls from the barrel. She says, oy vey, and he says she's too Jewish.
Oh, my God.
A little heavy on the Jewish jokes, eh, boys?
Man, I think originally Seymour, or Roger Moore here, was supposed to think that he actually was James Bond.
Yeah.
Like that was the original idea. But the Broccolis, the producers of the Bond franchise, were like, Nasser, that's not going to happen. So you got to come up with something different. And it was then switched to him thinking that he was Roger Moore. And the theme is interesting because it's clearly a spoof on the Bond theme. But Hal Needham, the director, said, yeah, but it's like one note different. We have one note different, and that's how they got around it. But I guess when Hal Needham went in later on to be considered to direct a Bond movie, not too long after this, the Broccolis, one of the first things I guess they said to him was, we should probably sue you. because they were really kind of pissed off that the James Bond character had been spoofed like this, especially with Roger Moore, who was playing Bond at the time.
Right.
And I'm not for sure about this, but it seems like they might have put in future clauses for contracts for Bond actors that they weren't allowed to do this again, or not allowed to spoof the character or the actor playing him in this way. I mean,
it's really a shame they don't have a sense of humor.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how it is now, because the movie industry was a bit different back then. There wasn't as much emphasis on meta-type stuff.
This is a really funny concept.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I thought Roger Moore was pretty funny in this movie.
Yeah, he was. Bert and Dom take to the water in a speedboat. Land, sea, and air, kids. Bert is ripping across the lake, and Dom is stressed out, saying he's disturbing the other boaters and he's going too fast. Bert is a tad reckless, you see. Bert waves at some bikini-clad boaters, but ends up crashing into a houseboat. The ambulance takes them to a hospital. The medic, played by the director Hal Needham, says they were lucky to survive and that they tore up the houseboat pretty good. Bert is on a gurney with a neck brace. Victor appears to have broken his index finger.
Hey, you guys are lucky. I mean, you tore the heck out of that boat.
You all right, Victor? Oh, I'm fine, JJ. It only hurts when I point. Maybe it would have been better if you didn't pay so much attention to those girls.
Nobody's perfect.
That's true. Nobody's perfect. But him. Sorry.
How far is it to the hospital? Oh, about 10 miles.
Oh, yeah? How long will it take to get there?
About 4 or 5 minutes. You can smoke through traffic like shot through a gun in this thing.
Bert and Dom look up through the front windshield and see the ambulance cutting through traffic at breakneck speed. Then they lock eyes.
That, like, shot through a gun line that Needham had, you can tell that he did not say that. I think he said, like, shit through a goose, I think is what he said. Because I went back over and over, and I wonder if they did that to maybe try to get under for a PG rating, or I don't know why they would have done that. But I'm pretty sure he said, like, shit through a goose. That's what it looked like.
That's too bad. That's a funnier line,
Yeah,
actually.
and I would have liked to have heard Needham actually say it, because he has that all shucks hillbilly delivery. Or he did. He's gone now, right?
He is, yeah. Next, we check in on a Tokyo-based talk show. The guest, Japan's #1 ranked race car driver Jackie Chan as himself, an actress from a Godzilla movie, an unnamed lady, and a computer scientist named Michael Huai as himself, who built a computerized Subaru that he and Jackie will race into Cannonball. Michael, who has been heavily flirting with the unnamed lady, takes her over to the car, much to Jackie's chagrin. The lady flips a switch and the car launches out of the studio with a crash.
The Asian stereotypes in this movie are... Oh.
Every single time they come on screen, you hear da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Between that and Sammy, the stuff they do with Sammy Davis, some of the stuff, I'm like, come on, man.
It's off to the Arabian desert, and we meet the Sheik, played by Jamie Farr. A couple of guys on camels talk about how Jamie thinks he's a race car driver as he tears ass through the desert in a Rolls Royce. We learn that he's already hit 3 camels. He greets his sister, played by Bianca Jagger. There's plenty of stereotypes thrown around, and he pledges that the Cannonball will fall to the powers of Islam.
I like how the thunder cracks when he says that. That's really great. The thing that's weird about this movie is that some of the weird choices, like, I don't know exactly who the guys on the camels are. The way they're featured, I feel like I should know who they are, but at least 2 of those guys are clearly Jewish, and they're playing Arab. And I was just like, really? You couldn't just find 3 Arab actors to, okay, maybe that's the joke, and I'm just not getting it because I'm out of context now, and I didn't get it when I was a kid, so I don't know, but somebody should write a book about the racial aspects of the Cannonball Run movies.
Now we are up in a plane as a rich guy named Brad, played by Bert Convy, you might remember him as the host of Win, Lose, or Draw, is canceling all of his appointments and plans to spend the weekend in Spain, he tells his 2 assistants. He also wants to find a friend of his named Shaky, who is the best long-distance motorcyclist in the country. One assistant brings up that the board wishes he wouldn't go through with what he's about to do. Convy says they'll have to indulge his ego on this one. He then drives the motorcycle out of the back of the airplane, pulls the parachute, and leaves a trail of pink smoke emanating from his boots.
What was the point of that? He lost that motorcycle almost immediately.
With no regard on where it's going to land either.
Right. Like, the motorcycle's obviously going to be damaged. There are people watching. I'm like, how many miles did you clear so that your motorcycle just fall to earth?
That lady that's watching down below, her husband goes, that's amazing. He goes, are you kidding? That's the dumbest thing I've seen since that idiot tried to jump the Grand Canyon.
Evil Knievel.
Her delivery's great.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a kid, I used to try to jump my little tricycle bike off of the couch onto the coffee table because I had seen Evil Knievel, and my dad used to call me Awful Kanoffel.
I'm surprised your mom let that fly.
She didn't. I just started it when she wasn't looking and finished it while she was.
Oh, and it wasn't the couch, it was the Davenport.
Right. Yeah, it was always the Davenport. Right. The couch was the small thing in the living room. The Davenport was the bigger thing in the family room. Right. Okay.
Then we meet my two favorite Cannonballers, Terry, played by Terry Bradshaw, and Mel, played by country singer Mel Tillis. If you don't know Mel Tillis, he has a severe stutter when he speaks, but he sings like an angel. They're being chased by the cops in their red Hawaiian Tropic Chevy Malibu.
He's still on ice. I don't think he's a buffing either.
Now, don't you worry, son. I'm gonna lose him right up here at the motel.
Hey, I remember. There's a spot. There's a spot right in back. And it's a perfect spot to hide.
All right, wonderful.
Take a left. Oh, hell. Take a left.
I can't see shit, can you?
As they make their turn, the hood of the car flies up over the windshield and they drive into a hotel swimming pool. They manage to evade the police.
That's perfect. That's better than hiding it out back.
I know. But the only problem we got now is we have to go and retune it. All right? Let's go get a beer first.
Yeah, let's go get a beer.
God, I love that scene.
I do too. Every time I hear Mel Tillis' name, it's a struggle for me not to sing "Take Me Down to Tucson" from Every Which Way But Loose.
Yeah.
I love that song. Or it's Any Which Way You Can, one of those two movies. Supposedly, they were going to try to develop a TV series around these two.
Oh, I'd have watched that.
Yeah, but it just kind of never came through, I guess. But I think that's what I read or heard, that they were supposed to try to do that.
That'd have been great because they had great chemistry too, like Dean and Sammy did.
They really did. I don't know if they were friends before this, but they felt like it.
At the hotel, there is a convention of environmentalists. The guest speaker is Arthur J. Foyt, played by George Firth. Arthur J. Foyt, A.J. Foyt. That's cute, right?
A.J. Foyt. Right. Okay.
He and everyone else is in love with the fellow tree lover and photographer Pamela, played by Farrah Fawcett, who is sitting with him before the lecture. As he desperately tries to look down her shirt, she talks about her love of trees. You can lie under them in a moonlit night with the leaves gently blowing in the breeze. Ball your brains out. George is called up to give his speech. Meanwhile, my heroes are outside trying to tune up their soggy Malibu. George begins to give a speech about the environmental evils of the automobile when the Malibu loudly starts on the other side of the window behind the podium. Mel revs the engine so loudly that the windows shatter, startling George and throwing him into the podium. An embarrassed George vows to end the cannonball once and for all.
I did not expect her to go that way with that speech. She's like talking about trees and everything. You could just ball your brains out. And I remember as a kid rewinding the video cassette and playing it because I'm thinking, did she say what I thought she said?
Well, first when I was a kid, I heard blow your brains out, and I'm like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
But then when I realized it was ball your brains, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. There we go. All right.
Yeah, hey, we can do that.
The world makes more sense now. Thank you.
Yeah. Time to meet two more Cannonballers, Mad Dog, played by Rick Aviles, and Batman, played by Alfie Wise. Rick doesn't like the parking situation, so he decides to make his own spot and drives his dually through the front of the hotel into the lobby. They hit a sofa that George is sitting on and knock him out. Bert and Dom have arrived wearing medic jackets, and you can see their ride, the Transcom Medevac ambulance, in the background. The manager pleads with them to help George, so Bert sprays him in the face and balls with seltzer water.
Of course. The two ways you wake a guy up.
Yeah.
Spray the face. Spray the balls. I checked that out on WebMD. That's legitimate.
Yeah. And he follows it up with, give him 2 enemas and call me in the morning. Later that evening, the Cannonballers are all hanging out in the lounge as Lou Rawls' music plays in the background. George is trying to get a swerve on with Farrah. They enter the lounge and he sees the drivers and wants to get the lowdown on the race. He drops his keys behind Bert and Dom's booth and crouches down to listen to their conversation. Bert is upset with Dom because he hasn't found a doctor to ride along with him in the race. If they're going to pose as medics, they need a real doctor on board to cover their asses. Sammy and Dean saddle up to the bar and salute the drivers.
Congratulations. Here's to you. Good luck, fellas. You dumb shits. They haven't got a chance. You know what? I think I'm going to call the Greek and put another 10,000 on us.
This is one of my favorite scenes of the movie because that one poor guy who's sitting there watching them. He I think he does a spit take at one point.
Yeah, yeah, he does.
Oh, man.
Bert and Dom also need a patient. They point to a table with 2 pretty ladies, saying maybe one of them could be a patient. Bert says maybe both. Dom says woof. They go over to talk to the ladies. One is the aforementioned Tara, the other is Marcy, played by Adrienne Barbeau. The ladies shoot them down, so Bert looks across the room and sees Farrah and her nipples. I mean, seriously, they're so prevalent in this scene they could have their own billing. Bert hones in on her and makes his move. They begin to small talk, and Farrah starts to tell her tree story when Dom interrupts and says that he has news about the doctor that he found, but Bert doesn't want to hear about it. He wants to talk to Farrah. Dom persists, and Farrah leaves unbeknownst to Bert.
Bert decides that he's just going to call Farrah Beauty because he doesn't really want to learn her name. What a gigantic asshole this guy is. I mean, I've never really been a big Burt Reynolds fan. I think he's done some good stuff.
He's a notorious asshole.
Yeah, and, this movie, I'm kind of... The more I watch it, the older I get, the more I'm kind of like, you could have got somebody else to play his part. I would have been fine with it.
He's got charisma to burn.
Yeah.
The laugh is always great.
Yeah.
He's such a prick that it's kind of hard to overlook it.
Yeah, I don't like it when he hits Dom.
That was his thing forever. He would slap people. Even into his old age, right before he died, he was being interviewed on a red carpet by someone, and he slapped the interviewer. And it was playful, but apparently he slapped him hard enough that the interviewer was like, what the hell?
That's so weird, man.
It's a weird thing to do to somebody, is just slap them.
Yeah. So stop doing that to me whenever you see me. I don't like it.
It's all out of love with me, though.
This is an intervention. I'm here to I finally got you to cover Cannonball Run so I could talk about your propensity to slap me whenever you see me.
I like your face better with fingerprint welts on it.
It does look better. It's true.
It does.
Makes me look tougher.
Convy finally meets up with Shaky, played by Warren Berlinger. Since they last saw each other, Shaky has put on some weight, and Convy doesn't mind telling him about it. Shaky says he's still the best there is, and Brad wants him to fix the bike's sticking throttle. Meanwhile, George is talking on the phone about ending the Cannonball and spinning it into a big congressional bill. Back at the bar, Dean lays eyes on Tara and Adrian. He pops his priest collar.
What's wrong? Look at the chicks. What is it?
Look at those chicks. Oh, if we were Methodists, what a shot we could have getting laid right here.
Look at the chicks, look at the chicks. George hears the bike revving and heads outside his room to see what the commotion is all about. Warren thinks he's fixed the throttle, but Convy takes off before Warren can be sure. Convy tears down the hallway of the hotel and almost runs over George, sending him through his hotel room window. He continues to drive breakneck through the hotel, bashes through one door to the bar and out the other side, barreling down a staircase and crashing into the lobby.
What in the hell was that?
All the Cannonballers begin to arrive and prep for the race. Roger arrives in his Aston Martin with the Bond girl. He signs in at the registration desk as Roger Moore. A Polish racing team headed by former NFL player Joe Klecko changes a tire. Terry and Mel load up multiple cases of beer into the Malibu and one bag of chips. Dean flirts with multiple women and gets drunk on scotch. Sammy pulls him away so they can prep for the start of the race. Prepping means getting snackered.
And when we say the Polish racing team is changing a tire, it means that Klecko is lifting the corner of the van himself so that they can change the tire. no jack, you know.
And the poor guy trying to change a tire, Joe's like, will you hurry the hell up?
Yeah. It's like, well, you know, you could use a jack. Like, we just put one of those in the van.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think there was a Polish racing team in the original Cannonball. I don't think there was anything in reality with this, but yeah, and I think they actually drove a van too, if I'm not mistaken.
It's time to start the annual Cannonball Run. Darkness has fallen, and Brock Yates, the man who built the original ambulance, gives the welcome speech. When you leave, you punch a card into a clock. At the finish line, there's another clock where you punch out. The first to punch out wins. The drivers begin to punch in and speed away. Bert and Dom are already behind because Dom hasn't found a doctor yet. Sammy and Dean are good and pickled, and they spot Bert and Dom. Dean says if Dom puts on Captain Chaos mask, everyone is doomed. George and Farrah watch the Cannonballers take off, and he's taking license plate numbers. Rick and Alfie take a shortcut and drive through an embankment of trees, much to Farrah's chagrin. Convy and Warren pose as honeymooners with Warren on the back of the bike with a wig.
George and Farrah, if you watch the scenes, like you see the scenes of their faces and stuff, but when they show the back of their heads watching the Cannonballers come out of the hotel parking lot, that is not them.
Yeah.
The dude has a powdered wig on, and her hair is clearly a wig. I think they're not even as tall as the other two, you can tell. It's like totally blatant. And there are like 2 shots of that in this little sequence here of them. It's like, that's not them.
Dean flirts with the Lambo girls, but they question his dedication to Catholicism. Dean claims to be in a far-out liberal wing. Sammy is ready to get moving. Dean says they need to be Methodist next time. A very drunk Dean takes the wheel, and they move toward the check-in. Sammy gets out to punch the card to the adoration of his fans.
Thank you, good sisters. May the good Lord take a liking to you, but not too soon. Bless you, my children.
Those guys are more juiced up than that Ferrari.
Dom has the doc. Bert is ready to meet him, but Dom forewarns him that he may be disappointed.
Before I open this, don't get your hopes up too high. I was dressed for time.
No problem. Holy shit.
I'm honored, sir. I'm Dr. Nicholas Van Helsing, professor of proctology and other related tendencies, graduate of the University of Rangoon, and assorted night classes at the Knoxville, Tennessee College of Faith Healing.
You may be a little overqualified for this job.
The doctor, played by Jack Elam, is a grizzled, drunken, unkempt man with birdwing eyebrows and an eye that veers hard left. He says that in his line of work, he only really needs 2 things, his middle finger and a large syringe. And he takes his middle finger and he taps Bert on the mustache with it.
Oh my God.
That's so funny. And when he shoots whatever's in the syringe at Bert and it splashes off the side of his head.
Oh my God.
It's maybe my favorite scene in the whole movie. Oh my God. He asked for $2,000 for his services. Bert was thinking more like $200. After giving it 10 seconds of thought, Jack accepts. He loads up into the ambulance, and Dom gets a slap across the chest by Bert, because of course he does.
Right.
With that, the Transcom Medevac is on the road.
Here we go. 3,000 carefree madcap miles to California.
California, here we come, right back where we started from.
Thanks to you, Victor. We do not have a female patient in the back. Thanks to your wonderful cousin Tessie.
It's not my fault that she didn't fit in the stretcher.
Doesn't fit in the ambulance.
I got the doc here, didn't I?
Don't you ever tell me where you got him. I don't want to know where you got him.
Okay. I was just surprised that all the animals there were
I don't want to know where you got him.
Hey, maybe I could be the patient.
That's a good idea. Everybody believe you were sick. Wouldn't you believe he's sick?
Want me to examine him?
JJ. Him doesn't like it when you say bad things about me, and you know that.
Thanks to you, though, we don't have a female patient. And we've got to find a female.
JJ.
They spot George and Farrah crashed on the side of the road. They pull over to help them. Bert sends George to climb into the back of the ambulance and pulls Farrah into the passenger side with him. Dom floors it and leaves George in his dust. Kidnapping! Hooray! Jackie and Michael are driving the computerized Subaru with the lights off, wearing infrared glasses. The Lambo girls get pulled over. Adrian pulls her license out of her ample cleavage, and the drilling officer lets them off with a warning. Bert tries to make Farrah feel better about her being abducted. Smokey is hot on their trail, so Bert tells her to lay down and act like a patient. She refuses. Jack wants to sedate her. She says no.
No.
Jack says it's not bad and that he actually does it all the time. Bert tells him to do it. Jack reluctantly injects himself with a wild look on his face and then does it again.
I love the sound he makes.
Bert and Dom get out and talk to the cops and have to explain why they're doing 120 miles an hour. They said they have a patient they have to drive to UCLA. The cops ask why they didn't fly her. Dom says he's just a driver and they should ask the doc. Bert isn't happy about that. The cops slide the door open. Farrah is on a gurney with the laughing gas cranked up.
What's going on out here? What is this crude interruption?
The patient, why can't she be flown to California?
Cysts on the walls of her lungs. Very rare. You see, airplanes are only pressurized at 10,000 feet. Now, anybody knows anything about medicine knows that she can't fly, she has to be driven. We couldn't even go through Denver, it's so high.
Tell them to go back and pick up Mr.
Voigt.
Is that lady all right?
She's in great pain. Cause her to make certain delirious tremendum.
Sounds like she's on something to me.
Well, let me explain something to you. We have to get the senator's wife to California in 72 hours. You understand what I'm saying?
But as long as you're in New Jersey, I want you fellas to take it easy. You got that?
We sure do. Thanks a lot.
Get this rig out of here.
What is this crude interruption? How do they get her sedated? Like, how do they get the mask on her for the laughing gas?
I have no idea.
I've never understood that.
I'm guessing the doc wrestles her down. I don't know.
I don't know. There's a lot of questionable behavior in this movie.
And now, intermission. Refreshment time.
2 minutes until showtime.
You see, the wife and I are swingers. And when we have a key party, we always buy Schlené. Nothing gets things lubed up like putting on side one of Santana's Abraxas and cracking open some Schlené. It goes perfect with our tuna pineapple surprise and Vienna sausage on a stick. Schlené beer. It lowers the inhibitions and brings about the sexual revolution.
90 seconds until showtime.
Coming soon to this drive-in theater.
At last, a controversial new motion picture that dares to deal with a serious contemporary problem which every man, woman, and child must come to grips with at least once in their lifetime.
Make them like this anymore. Why don't you go ahead and sit inside? Go ahead. This new upholstery, only 27,000 miles, and we just gave the engine a complete overhaul yesterday. Go ahead, kick her over. Isn't that the quietest engine you've ever heard in your life?
Used cars, rolling off the blocks this summer into a theater near you.
Hey, Stan, trust me, huh? Happy motoring, Stan.
Trust me.
Trust me.
Trust me?
Trust
Hey, come on. Trust me.
And now, on with the show.
George is at the airport talking to his contact in Washington in a phone booth. A lady in a van backs into the phone booth, prohibiting him from getting out, causing him to shimmy out underneath the booth. Roger is chatting up a different Bond girl. She wants a smoke and goes for the cigarette lighter in the dash. Roger stops her and insinuates that it's an ejection button. He would later have the same conversation with another lady. Meanwhile, the Lambo girl's cleavage gets them out of another ticket. Sammy and Dean pull up next to the ambulance and want them to pull over so they can bless them. Dom wants to do it, but Bert questions the validity of a black priest in a red Ferrari. Dom wins and they pull over.
Nice car, Father.
Thank you, asshole.
Hello, Father. Nice looking car.
Oh, that's what everybody said. He even said it. I want to thank you for stopping, son, because we always stop the ambulance, so we can bless who's ever in there. And you paramedics are doing such a wonderful job.
Yeah, well, we're in kind of a hurry, so if you could just bless it and then we can...
Oh, I gotta bless her.
Oh, I'm sorry, Father. She's a Zen Buddhist, and you're not a Zen Buddhist, so you can't bless her.
We specialize in blessing Zen Buddhists. Yeah.
Yes? Second thought, Father. You wanna bless him? We need all the help we can get. Just give him a little shot. Thank you, Father.
Yeah, quite well.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Why don't you take that piece of shit back to the junkyard?
JJ, we got a...
Lad.
Yeah, and those priests...
Weren't fathers. They were...
Mothers.
Come here.
Oh, gee.
Yes, while Dean ran to the distraction, Sammy cut the tire. Those rascals.
Those rascals. This is my favorite scene in the whole movie. I love this scene from start to finish. The only thing I don't like is, why is it so weird to Bert that there's a black priest?
Yeah.
I understand being in a red Ferrari. I dig that. I understand that looks weird. But a black priest, that doesn't really seem all that weird to me.
I feel like there's a lot of undercurrent to Sammy's real religion in this, because Sammy's converted Jewish.
Right.
So now they're saying a black priest? What the hell?
Yeah,
so I think
maybe.
They're probably playing off of that joke, but
maybe.
Who knows?
I like when they get out of the car and Dean walks in front of the ambulance and Dom says, "Nice car," and he's like, "Thanks, asshole." As he kind of waves, "Thanks, asshole."
He gets over to Bert, and Bert says, "Nice car." He goes, "Thanks." Even he thanks. Even he said that.
Yeah, I get that a lot. And when he sees Ferret, he's like, "Oh, I've got to bless her." Dude, I love that. And then the button at the end with Sammy saying, "Why don't you take that piece of shit back to the junkyard?"
They weren't fathers, they were mothers. I think we just repeated the entire audio track there, but that's okay.
That's okay. It's worth hearing twice.
Yeah.
This is basically, if you love this movie, or if you watch it and really connect with it, this is what you end up doing with your friends while you're watching it sometimes.
Yes.
You end up just repeating everything they just said.
This is kind of like the newer generation's Anchorman.
Right.
You're going to watch Anchorman, you're going to repeat it for days and days and years and years.
Yeah, exactly.
The ambulance makes a pit stop in St. Louis. Somehow they've gotten ahead of the priests. As they pull out of the gas station, the Ferrari pulls in behind them. There's a police officer at the corner. Bert sets Dean and Sammy up.
There's going to be a red Ferrari come flying through here in a few seconds, and the two men driving are responsible for the victim lying back here in this ambulance.
Victim?
A flasher victim. You want to know the worst part?
What's that?
They're dressed as priests.
Go on.
Well, I guess they think it's a little kinkier, dressed as priests.
God damn, that's sick. I'll handle this.
Oh, one more thing. I think they're armed.
Damn, I hope so. It'll give me an excuse.
The Ferrari flies out of the gas station and the cop stands in front of it, stopping them.
Flashers! Bye-bye!
JJ, you son of a...
Out of the car, both of you. Now. All right, hit it.
Hit it? Hit it?
They begin to slap out a rhythm on the roof.
Freeze or name your beneficiary.
Beneficiary?
Officer, I sincerely hope
Hey, pay
you're
no
not a
attention to him.
Catholic.
He's been locked up for 6 years in that monastery, and he don't know what he's doing. I don't think both of his paddles are in the water.
6 years is going to seem like a summer vacation when the state of Missouri gets through with you. And you, Shorty, where'd you get all that jewelry?
Why do you call me Shorty?
Because you're small. Small. S-M-O.
I like when Bert says something about them being armed and dangerous or something like that. And the cop goes, something like, damn, I hope so.
Yeah.
I love that. I just love
Give me an excuse.
Yeah, give me an excuse. I love lines like that where it's just like, oh, I thought you'd never ask for me to kick your ass.
Yeah.
Like, I thought you'd never call me to do this.
The guy playing the cop is really funny, too. Like, he sells it. Yeah.
He really does.
There's a roadblock ahead and their transmission is slipping. They have to hatch a plan to make it through. Bert CB's a flatbed semi in front of him and asks for a ride. They load up and pull a tarp over the ambulance. This not only helps him get through the roadblock, but lets them work on the van at the same time. Genius!
And totally against the rules.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one rule in the Cannonball was that your tires always have to be on the road. You have to be the one moving. So, theoretically, they're disqualified.
Yeah.
Right here, they get disqualified.
Nobody got to know about it.
Yeah.
Nobody got to know about it.
Nobody's got to know about this.
George is at the roadblock with the license plate numbers. Roger shows up and hits a button, flipping his license plate to different numbers. Roger says that he and his Bond girl are on their honeymoon, so George lets them through. Bert and Farrah get to know each other in their downtime. She's starting to enjoy the company of her captors.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, perfect. She asks why they're doing it, and Bert says just for the hell of it. His dad died young, and he wants to live life to its fullest.
His speech about doing this is not really the same at all as Brock Yates' original intention behind doing it. Because the idea behind the actual Cannonball was that it would actually be safer to drive the highways at higher speeds than what they were limited to. So driving beyond the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, the one of the ideas that Yates seemed to put forth was that it was actually safer to do it, and you could get places quicker, and you could be freer. So it was kind of weird to hear this little speech from Reynolds for Bert, that was kind of like, well, okay. I mean, my daddy worked, where did he say his dad worked? I forget what he said he did.
Yeah, I forget too, yeah.
But, he worked on the railroad or whatever, or he worked in the coal mine.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Maybe they crafted that speech just to help endear him to Farrah's character a little more. I don't know.
I guess so. That scene just felt really weird, though, too, when he comes into the back of the ambulance, and I'm just thinking, oh, man, if this movie didn't have Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. in it and Dom DeLuise, like, this scene would be more sinister, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding.
I don't know.
Mel and Terry reached the roadblock. They had painted over the red Hawaiian Tropic paint job with gray primer, but never let it dry. The primer is streaked across the car, and the red is showing through. George asks where they're going, and Mel says, out, to get a pack of cigarettes. George recognizes them, and the cops end their race. George, you rat bastard.
Just taking it all away.
Then the Polish team is pulled over. They tell George that the word is out about the roadblock. He makes them get out of the van. He asks for the officers to help push the van off the road. He puts it into what he thinks is neutral, but hits a different gear, and the van launches forward, knocking the cop car off the bridge, and the van explodes.
They had that like safety chain or something hooked on to the car or to the van, I think, or something, because you can see the safety chain or something that's kind of hooked onto it so that the van doesn't go over too. This wouldn't be an 80s car movie if something didn't explode, into a million pieces.
The flatbed lets the ambulance off further down the road. Later, Farrah asks Dom about Captain Chaos.
Victor, I don't know how to ask you this. Isn't it a little strange having that guy running around inside your head?
Oh, he's not in here. He's out there somewhere, helping people.
Oh.
He's always helping people. He'd help you.
He would?
He likes you.
Well, how did he find you? I mean, how did you two get together?
Well, when I was real young, I didn't have any friends like I do now. Like JJ. One day I was in the schoolyard. 9 guys were beating me up pretty good. There he was. Dun, dun, dun.
Captain Chaos?
Yeah, out of the blue. Pow! Slam! Bam! Paff! I sure was grateful.
Great!
Yeah, oh, nobody bothered me at school after that.
I wish I had a friend like that.
Well, first you need a mask and a cape.
I think I'd like mine to be pink. Almost everything I wear is pink.
Everything? Even,
Oh, I don't wear any.
You don't?
Victor, I'd like to be your friend, because I like you.
Oh, I like you too, Beauty.
Jackie and Michael's computer tells him that they are in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but the big city limit sign says El Paso, Texas. Jackie does a big U-turn. Meanwhile, the Lambo girls get pulled over and immediately release their cleavage. But this time they get pulled over by a lady who has her own cleavage on display.
And that lady is Valerie Perrin from Superman and Slaughterhouse-5. She's Miss Tessmacher. And she plays Montana Wildhack in Slaughterhouse-5. Her and Billy Pilgrim are stuck on Tralfamadore in that dome together. She was really cool. Like, she was a good actress.
Roger's being trailed by a cop. He instructs his Russian Bond girl to flip a couple of switches, releasing smoke and then oil. The cop spins out dramatically. That was the fastest spin out I've ever seen in my life.
I know, and that reminded me of Spy Hunter. Remember that video game Spy Hunter where you would have an aerial shot and you had the oil, you had the smoke, and you're trying to that totally... And it actually, the Aston Martin, even, I think that car was an Aston Martin in Spy Hunter in the game.
Back to Jackie and Michael. They have a TV and a Betamax installed in their dash. Michael is asleep, so Jackie turns on the porn classic Behind the Green Door. Not paying attention to the road, he swerves to avoid cars, waking Michael up. Michael gives him 9 kinds of hell in Chinese. Jamie has been pulled over and tells the police that his mother plans to buy Southern California and that maybe they'd like to reconsider the ticket if they want to keep their jobs. They laugh him off and give him the ticket. He speeds away, throws up a Bronx howdy, and tosses the ticket out the window. The chase begins again.
Does he throw money out then, too?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I don't remember if he threw money out or not.
Rick and Alfie have a Moto Smoky on their trail. He pulls up next to them, and Alfie says they have no brakes. The cop pulls away, but then he realizes he really has no brakes as they are approaching a train. A conveniently placed ramp helps him jump a flatbed car on the train, and they make it to the other side.
The way that truck lands, too, it looks like it's just obliterated. And they keep driving. They don't stop to worry about the brake. Like, they don't try to throw it out of gear or anything.
That's why they had so many different General Lees and Dukes of Hazzard, because every time they jump one, they destroyed it.
Right.
The Subaru's computer shows them where they are in the pack. They decide to take a shortcut and end up following some dune buggies up the side of a hill. The hill is more than the Subaru can take. Michael is speaking Chinese, but then he says, "Secret weapon." He flips a switch, and the hatch opens, and a rocket-like device raises up from the back. They flip the switch and fire! The Subaru propels through the air like it was fired from a cannon. Construction has temporarily closed the desert road the cannonballers are traveling. The drivers all wait for the road to open. The priests and the paramedics reunite.
Hey, Father Putz. Albert Schweitzer. Hey, I want to thank you for being so sweet and so nice and telling those people all about us, back in Missouri. That we were both flashers and sex maniacs.
Well, I just wanted to return the favor that you and the Chocolate Monk did for us back in Ohio.
The Chocolate Monk? You can say that. He could say that. He could say that because he's riding around with the Goodyear blimp. Goodyear blimp?
You can say that. You can say that.
Yeah, I can say that.
Because if I had the time, I would take those rosary beads and stuff them up your nose.
These rosary beads?
Yeah.
My rosary beads?
Yeah.
You shove them this nose?
Up
here?
that nose, yeah.
You can do that.
Oh, you can do that?
Do you take a little advice?
Sure.
Bring friends. A
How did the priests get out of the flasher traffic stop? That's something I've always wondered.
I have no idea.
Because that cop was going to take them downtown, and still they got out of it. I don't know how they did it.
You'd think that was definitely the end of their race.
That would have been a better storyline to me to have rather than the Japanese storyline, because their storyline is kind of one note. Like, we have all these computers, and Jackie's just watching porn, and we're getting lost.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of trading on the stereotype of bad Asian drivers, which is ridiculous, right? So I would have liked to have seen Sammy and Dean get out of that traffic or that arrest.
So wait, you just said Japanese, but Jackie Chan is Chinese.
That's right. He is. See, it's weird because at the beginning, they're on a Tokyo-based talk show. So I got confused. And it's like, once you say that, I'm like, yeah, of course he's Chinese. Like, what am I thinking? I'm not going to blame it on the movie because that's my fault. Like, I didn't watch it very well. And I obviously wasn't listening to you very well. But kind of the way they lump Asia and Asian people together in this movie is just kind of...
Just another thing to add on to the racism in this movie.
Yeah, it's pretty problematic. It's
yeah.
And I just gave into it, so I'm a complete asshole. Oh, man. Oh,
well.
It's just not turned out to be my day. It's a tough day at the office, man. Good Lord.
Our apologies to all Japanese and Chinese listeners.
We disapprove and disavow the racial stereotypes in this movie wholesale. It's a blanket disavowal of them.
It was a different time.
Oh, God. Oh, shut your face. Still wrong.
I know. At a gas station adjacent to the road, Convy and Warren pull over for gas. Warren still has his wig on when a biker gang fronted by Peter fucking Fonda pulls in, and they immediately begin harassing the honeymooners. The Cannonballers watch and debate on whether they should help Convy and Warren when... Captain Chaos returns. He dives on top of the bikers, and the Cannonballers join the fracas. Chaos shows superhuman strength, taking down biker after biker. The Cannonballers are no slouches either. The road opens and the teams all scurry back to their vehicles. Michael wants Jackie to get back to the car, but Jackie, being Jackie fucking Chan, wants to keep fighting. He takes on all comers and leaves them laying, and also splits his pants.
Man, there are a couple kicks in that fight sequence where you can just see he totally misses their faces.
Oh yeah, whiffs them.
But hey, Peter Fonda here is good as, or actually a resurrection of Captain America from Easy Rider. I mean,
right.
Spoiler alert, right? Like, you know. Yeah, I thought Fonda was good. As a kid, I didn't necessarily know who he was, but then later on seeing it, after I know who Peter Fonda is, an Easy Rider, Hired Hand, then I look at it and say, oh yeah, he was in this movie, and he's Captain America.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of cool. Yeah, and the bald guy there, Robert Tessier, he was in movies like Hard Times, that Walter Hill movie with Charles Bronson. He was done a ton of television. Spitzer for Hire.
He's in a Hulk too, wasn't he? Incredible Hulk?
The Incredible Hulk. Dukes of Hazzard. Kung Fu.
Oh, yeah.
Wander the Earth like Cade from Kung Fu. But, yeah.
If you're around our age, you've definitely seen him a few times.
Pretty much every week on television for
the
70s, for most of the 70s and the 80s.
Seemed like he was always playing it heavy, too.
Yeah. He was a very menacing-looking dude. I mean, he's just a big guy.
Dom is pushing the ambulance as hard as he can, but the other drivers are passing him right and left. Bert wants to know why he took the mask off. Dom says him took the mask off, not Dom. After some badgering from the crew, dun, 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 Chaos is behind the wheel, and he passes everybody. We're in the home stretch. Some take shortcuts. The lead changes hands several times. They reach the pier where the end of the race is. They can't get the cars through, so it ends in a foot race. Chaos hauls ass with Adrian right behind him. Bert dives into the pack and takes down everyone with him. As Chaos approaches the finish line, he hears a woman crying for help, saying her baby fell in the water. Chaos stops in his track and dives off the pier after the baby, and Adrian punches the clock. The Lambo girls win the race.
Yay!
As it turns out, the baby was a dog. Wah, wah.
JJ, I saved that woman's dog.
Victor, we could have won that race. Do you understand what I'm telling you? We could have won it.
You understand that? You had to go and pull that stupid stunt.
He's right, Victor.
We are sick of Captain Chaos. We are so sick of Captain Chaos that we could throw up. So you know what, Victor? There's not going to be any more Captain Chaos. No more! You see what I'm telling you? No more! No more Captain Chaos! No more! What do you think of that?
Bert rips off his mask and cape.
don't care. Because I've always wanted to be Captain USA. Dun, dun, dun. It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
Dom has a new mask and cape and is now Captain USA. The cannonballers that were stopped at the roadblocks arrive in cabs along with George. He wants to know how they all feel now that they have raped the American highways, and they all agree that they feel great. Roger gives George a cigar and tells him there's a lighter in the car that he can feel free to use. George climbs into the driver's side and lights up the stogie, but nothing happens. Roger enters the passenger seat wondering which lighter he used. He points to the lighter. Roger pushes the button and gets ejected out of the car and into the water. The rest of the cannonballers pop champagne and celebrate as we get a helicopter shot of the pier to end the movie.
But wait, there's more.
Yes, what follows is maybe the funniest blooper reel over the closing credits of all time. Well, to me anyway. Look for that on our social media sites. One of the funniest movies ever.
I hated it. I just hated it.
I know you did. Yeah, I know you hated it.
To me, Cannonball Run 2 has always been superior.
It's because Sinatra's in it. I know how you love the Sinatra comedy movies.
Yeah. Oh, I think that like Sinatra wanted to be in that movie so badly because he saw how much fun Sammy and Dean had in this movie. And Cannonball Run 2 is not good.
No.
And the third one, actually, the third Cannonball Run movie, what's it called? It's not called Cannonball Run 3. It's called something else. It's got like Eugene Levy and John Candy and a bunch of people in it. But yeah, that's a funny movie. Honestly, though, it wasn't as funny to be watching it this last time around. Like Sammy and Dean really made me laugh, but it was funny.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie, I don't know what it was. I mean, sometimes with these movies, we watch them a lot before we get to the point where we record something. You know, we'll run them over and over out in the drive-in. Sometimes it's, maybe just the repetition. You kind of know what's coming, or you remember so immediately what's coming that it's maybe not quite as funny, but
kind of takes the piss out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
Still, to me, one of the funniest movies ever, all the racism aside.
Yeah, the racism and sexism aside, it's a great movie. I love Steven Soderbergh's quote about this movie. Somebody was asking about whether making movies was supposed to be fun or if having a good set made a great movie or whatever. His answer basically said, if having fun making a movie equal to it being a great movie, then the Cannonball Run would be the greatest movie of all time.
He's probably right about that too.
Yeah. I mean, this movie, on pretty much every metric, it's bad.
Yeah.
The writing's bad. The editing's terrible. The direction's awful. The stunts look really put together. Like everything is bad, and yet it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the movies we cover are like that. They're bad, but they're great.
Right.
And this movie's definitely on that list for me. I mean, we grew up with it too. So it's a little different than, a movie that we didn't grow up with, seeing it and thinking, oh shit, this is bad. What do we do with this?
Right.
This one, having grown up with it, knowing the lines from an early age. I mean, even the lines in the blooper reel.
Yeah.
We'll just go behind the curtain a little bit here. When you first started into the scene where the paramedics and the priest meet back up, the first thing I said was, "These bleeds." You're gonna, and that's a blooper,
Right,
but it's like it's so ingrained from an early age, you just can't get away from it.
My Uncle Dale, when I was a kid, he had a Beta machine and a VHS.
He was a baller.
He was, and when this movie first came out, he rented it on Beta, copied it over to VHS. So when we finally got a VCR, not much longer after that, he rented it again, made a copy of it for me, and gave it to me. And I think I watched it until the tape wore thin, to where it was starting to like jump a little bit. And I probably watched this movie 100 times when I was a kid, just over and over and over again.
Yeah, definitely.
That's why I'm such a racist now.
Yeah, it's true. It's really becoming an issue.
I hate everyone.
I think this quarantine could be a good reset for you. But
I kid, people. I kid.
Yeah. I'm not. No, I am.
A racist. He is a racist. Yes.
It's it's so weird though, Because nowadays, your DVD or Blu-ray can get a scratch on it, right? Or it can get a fingerprint on it that just really completely messes up your viewing experience. But VHS is so different because that was like a slow motion car crash that you just had to start watching. You'd see the static, and then you'd see something may not go quite right. And then after a while, your machine
the tracking would be off.
The tracking would be off. The audio might slip, and then eventually your machine would eat the tape because the tape was so weak that it couldn't take it anymore. And I still have VHS out in the garage. I have VHS that I'm trying to take over to the VHS recycling place here in town because it's stuff that I just don't watch anymore. I mean, I still have VCRs. Like I have 2 or 3 in the house.
A lot of flat screens aren't compatible with those anymore. So when you watch them, all the colors off and everything else.
I know. I mean, I still, from time to time, I'll buy movies on VHS that I can't get on DVD or Blu-ray. Mm-hmm. I just bought a Herzog movie 6 months ago that I couldn't get a hold of anywhere else. So aside from a huge box set I couldn't afford, so somebody was selling it on VHS, man. I mean, VHS is the way to go.
Do what you got to do.
3 movies on a 6-hour video cassette on EP or whatever, extended play. I mean, that tape's not going to last very long, but you got like 6 hours of enjoyment on there,
Yeah.
What in the hell was that?
The remake of Rembrandt on this one is going to be fairly easy, I think, because this movie not only had a couple of sequels, but has been sort of remade a couple different times already.
It was actually even kind of a remake itself.
Yeah, the Gumball Rally.
Yeah, there's Gumball Rally. There was Cannonball with David Carradine, which is a legitimately bad movie.
It was boring.
It really was. And, of course, there are also kind of takeoffs on the Cannonball, like Death Race 2000, which was a better David Carradine outing.
Yeah.
But Gumball Rally, I thought, was a good movie. It had so many scenes to me that were played for not quite as many laughs, but they were so similar to the scenes in Cannonball Run that I was kind of like, there's no reason to really cover both of them.
And even more recently, I think it was a late 90s movie, Rat Race. That was another Cannonball Run type movie as well, which is also pretty funny in its own right.
Right.
Yeah. Remake of Rembrandt, for me, as far as that's concerned, I'm saying it's a Rembrandt. But it'll probably get remade again at some point anyway because it's such a good concept. I don't know, these Fast and the Furious movies have kind of taken the piss out of race movies in general, I think, anymore. Because it's like if you're gonna do a race movie, you're gonna have all these foreign cars drifting here and there and that sort of thing, and it's I don't think that sort of thing is as fun as what we had here.
Right. This movie is different, I think, from the Fast and Furious in that the Fast and Furious are supposed to make you feel cool watching them.
Yeah.
And this movie is not about that. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, this movie is kind of like, and, too, how many good-looking people are in this movie? You know what I mean?
Right.
Burt Reynolds was good-looking, but I think his hairpiece should have gotten stunt pay all those years because his hairpiece really kind of put it together.
Wasn't his mustache fake in this, too?
It might have been. I don't know.
I think it was. I think he had a fake mustache in this.
Wow. He was all dolled up. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you're right. And I think the thing about these movies, too, is that this kind of movie had been made long before even the Cannonball movies were made in the 70s. And, Around the World in 80 Days, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, or however many mads are in that title.
Right.
These movies had already been kind of made. Still yet, I do like a good scavenger hunt type movie. And I kind of think of this, even though really they're racing, the scavenger hunt aspect of it, or the feel of that, I just always love that. I mean, Midnight Madness was one of my favorite movies growing up. And it was just like some little movie with Michael J. Fox and Pee Wee Herman and a few other people. And I like that movie because I just love that whole aspect of it, that journey. The journey's built into the story. I love that. And I like that about this movie. I think the thing about this movie, looking at it, right, I'm going to say remake, simply because I think that there are probably things you could do to this story and make it better. And first and foremost, I think making the editing better, making it make more sense. Mm-hmm. And the end race to the finish line there through San Diego, I think is where they were, maybe.
Yeah.
That didn't make sense. Logistically, it didn't make any sense because you would have the ambulance way ahead and then the ambulance be way behind everybody.
Right.
So I think remaking this movie, again, with a bunch of top stars, right? Like as many top stars making fun of themselves as you could get, kind of an Ocean's 11 model to be more updated about it, I think would be great. I mean, I think it would be hilarious to see Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in a car together doing something stupid. You know what I mean?
Right,
or, I mean, to get real kind of meta, bring back Casey Affleck and Scott Conn as their characters from the Ocean's movies, you know?
Yeah.
So stuff like that I think would be really great. You know, originally I think it was going to be a more serious movie, the first iteration of Cannonball, this version of it, not the other two from the earlier. And it was supposed to be Steve McQueen as J.J. McClure, which would have made this a totally different movie. It would have been more serious. You know, those movies had already been made.
Right.
That said, though, thinking about Ocean's 11, like, I think J.J. McClure, as played by George Clooney, would be pretty hysterical.
Oh, yeah.
Because that guy is incredibly funny. You know, you could stack all the racing teams with comedians and big-name actors.
Yeah.
So I do think that a good remake would be a lot of fun. That said, if there is a remake ever done, I don't think it's going to be very good.
Right.
I mean,
in the right hands, it could be really fun. You know, good writers, good director, and all that. But
I think a director who bans the use of drifting and slow motion photography. I think those two things need to be banned. And I think that's what makes this movie so good, is that you don't have slow motion. You don't have that kind of bullshit. I mean, honestly, what happened in my mind was that with the advent of the whole Matrix thing, basically Fast and Furious was, okay, let's make a car movie, but Matrix style.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what you got. And I appreciate the milestone that the Matrix was, but it really kind of had this long shadow that people still can't get out from under as far as like effects and stuff. So I would like to see the remake, but I want to see it without that shit. I want to see it just on its own merits with the actors and some really great stunt drivers doing some really cool stunts.
Yeah.
That's one thing about the stunts in this movie. They're really kind of cool and impressive because Hal Needham was a stunt man or a stunt coordinator.
Can you imagine if Quentin Tarantino were to direct a Cannonball Run remake?
There would be a lot of talking and probably not that much driving.
Right.
Although, you know, Death
I was thinking
Proof,
because he did Death Proof, and that's one of my favorite chase scenes ever.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
He can do comedy.
Yeah.
He's big on practical effects. He's big on doing things naturally, doing things old school. He's got racism down. He could drop the N-word in every other scene because he does anyway.
He could do that.
He's got all the bases covered.
It's true. Yeah. I'm not really a huge Quentin Tarantino fan, although I do like Death Proof a lot.
Yeah.
And I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood up until probably the last 15 minutes or so.
Right.
But,
I mean, I don't know that I would want to see it. I'm spitballing what if he did it?
When you talk about it, he's really kind of the only guy who can.
Yeah.
Or who would do it in the way that we're talking about. Pretty much any director you're going to put in there is going to want to do some sort of slow motion bullshit or somebody walking away from a car that explodes in slow motion. You know, they're going to want to do that stuff in a Cannonball Run remake. I also wonder if there is a legitimate television series in this movie. Because, you know, every season could be a new race with some main characters coming back like J.J. McClure and Victor. And then people cycling in and out, you know, so you have guest stars and stuff like that.
Right.
As long as we don't put Ryan Murphy on it, I think we'll be in good shape. As long as we don't get like people who suck, it might be a pretty cool TV series. Yeah. So yeah, it's not as like a comprehensive remake as we usually do.
We do what we can.
Yeah. With what little brains and talent we have. Well, brains. Well,
yeah.
We don't have either one of those. That's okay.
I think ultimately there's no real good answer to remake a Rembrandt on this one, just because it could be remade probably another 10, 15 times, but would it be any good, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
This is it's definitely a high concept movie that could make for some great TV or film.
I think, too, that if this movie is remade, probably adding something in there besides bragging rights might help.
Yeah.
I mean, the great thing about the Cannonball Run is that you really just kind of forget that they're racing for a trophy. There's no prize money, I don't think, right? They didn't add prize money into this.
I don't believe so. Yeah.
There's no prize money in the original Cannonball races that I know of, so...
There certainly was no prize money in it for Sammy Davis Jr. at the end of that movie.
It's true. Fenderbaum got fender bumped, man. He got rear-ended in this race. Okay, well, whatever.
Yeah.
Rebrand. What do you do when you've done it all? Ball. Cannonball. Cannonball. I think those are totally wrong words, man.
Whatever. Thank you for joining us at the All Night Drive-In Picture Show. We hope you enjoyed our feature this evening. You can follow us on social media at the All Night Drive-In Picture Show page on Facebook or at All Night Drive-In on Twitter and Instagram. If you have questions, comments, or movie requests, you can send them to our email address at allnightdriveинpictureshow@gmail.com. Join us next week for another fantastic feature, and until then, we appreciate your patronage. Don't forget to hang up your speaker, and please drive carefully on your way out.
The All Night Drive-In Picture Show is edited and produced by Markham Harvey. Our theme song is composed and performed by Lee Rosevere and edited by The Night Watch. Our head ticket taker is Stubbs Jorgensen. Our snack bar manager is Lucy Slewfoot. Our sign master is Jason Baldwin. Our drive-in manager is the one and only George Jaike. I'm your announcer, Lane Hewitt. This has been a Clown Business Coalition production. Good night, everyone.